Hello, hello, everybody. I hope everyone is doing good this evening. Welcome to a session of Removing Armor. My name is Jamel Shelton, and today we have the pleasure. I have the pleasure of speaking to a brother named Calvin Foster. I met this brother earlier this year. He has an amazing background from being a vet serving inside of the Marine Corps to now just recently purchasing 100 acres of land in Georgia. So we're going to talk about a lot of things this evening, what I call removing the armor, which for me means just kind of taking off this, as a man, taking off this armor that sometimes we wear and start getting into real conversations centered around vulnerability, being scared, some of the words that we've been told growing up that we're not allowed to use. So with that being said, I'd like to bring in Brother Calvin.
Hey, good afternoon.
Good evening, good brother.
All right,
You may
man. You
feel
still out there?
noon out there in Georgia. I don't know if the sun's officially set out there or not. It's still a little bit of light outside.
Well, it just finished raining a lot, so it's starting to clear up, and so hopefully we can get back to normal over here. The temperature dropped a lot, but we're wishing, man, that we were on the island with you. So
Well, man, I'm sure people in California wish they had some of that rain that we're having in Georgia right now, man. So I think
exactly,
it's all
exactly,
perspective
good
where
brother.
you're living. Absolutely, absolutely. So let's dive straight into it, man. I met you earlier this year at a chop it up session. This is when pre-COVID, when things were kind of normal, and I remember you walking inside of the tea shop, and we were talking, and you just had this real energy about you. And you walked in, you greeted brothers. I remember the first thing you said is, "Man, it's going to be a good night." And me, you, and several other brothers, we chopped it up for about 2 hours. And I remember you were one of the ones that started talking about. It's okay. What if it's okay to not feel okay? And that's something as a man that kind of caught me off guard because we've been told all of our lives that it has to be all right. Even if it's not the case, then you have to lie and kind of suck it up and pull up your bootstraps. So for me, that was really a change of pace. And from there, we've kicked it. I've learned a lot more about you. And I'm just really inspired by your story, good brother. So I just want to speak on that this evening, if you don't mind, brother.
Well, first off, I want to thank you for putting this together, man. Just the opportunity to come on and really just to find this thing that you created, man. This space where men can come in and express themselves and their the things that we're, like you said, we're taught not to do, to open up, to share, to give, and to just to be vulnerable at times, to talk about the things that we really sometimes try to handle on our own. So thank you so much for doing it. I know you're one of the masterminds behind Undugu and the safe space that we have there. So I'm thankful for this opportunity. And I will say, just going into it, that I've always been sort of a spiritual discerner. Even as a child, I would get in trouble for daydreaming. And everybody else would be engaged with something. I would be totally disconnected, just transported to another place. And I have I guess one of my gifts is discernment. So I just knew walking into just had Ad Honey that I had a different energy, and I knew something really good was going to happen there. And so it sort of just, the vibration just went really high, man. And just the outcome from that session, man, it really just like set me on fire in ways that just grew me. So I knew something was going to happen there, and some really good relationships were going to be formed, and here we are, almost a year later, and we're moving on. So so I just want to thank you for creating that space, man, and opening up your business. And I will tell you, whether you know it or not, and I have told you this before, you played an integral part in some of the moves that I made. So as we get into the conversation, I'll harp on that a little bit more.
Man, I'm honored just by you saying that, and I can't wait for some of the people that are online right now to kind of just hear your story and hear what you're doing right now. It's to me, it's absolutely amazing. So, first question I want to ask you is your background in the Marine Corps. I know that you're a veteran. You served our country. First and foremost, we salute you for that, good brother. And
Yep.
I just wanted to, my first question again is, how did you get in the Marine Corps? What inspired that? Was it something that was intentional? Did you have a plan? And kind of go from there, brother.
I had no plan at all. I had sort of watched the commercials and was looking at, the guy hold up the sword and, honor, courage, commitment, Marines and fighting the dragons and stuff and all that stuff. So I kind of had been watching the Marines, but uh, just crazy as it might sound, man. My first ambition was to cook.
Wow. This
My
is
first ambition was to be a cook and and I had grew up cooking most of my life, just because of the circumstances I grew up in where my parents were gone, but I wanted to cook. But it didn't work out because we didn't have money for me to. So I actually applied to the Atlanta Art Institute and culinary school and got accepted. And they called me and said, "Yeah, man, we'd love to have you. Come on up." My parents had no money to get me there and no money to keep me there, so that was out. Um, so how I got into the military was I also at the time was being a bit of a knucklehead and hanging around with some buddies and caught myself a nice little drug charge.
wow.
So
How old were
you
you in this
know,
era? How old were you then?
uh, man, I had started. I started my way through the penal system. I had to be about 15 and 16 then and got into some other trouble. And I don't want to get too deep into that, but I got in some other trouble and, was looking at a drug charge and some other stuff, man. I was looking probably to end up on a good year to a probation and you do something wrong after that. Next thing you know, you're introduced, now you're of age and you're introduced to the penal system. So I was on my way to the possibly the prison pipeline. And, just the little small town I'm from, man, I don't think there's 25,000 people there. So,
Where are you
uh,
from, Calvin?
Millen, Georgia, a little small town called Millen, Georgia, outside of Statesboro, Georgia. So, little
Got
small town. So, I ended up, long story short, uh, the, I ended up working at a trailer park making mobile homes. So, my hands and knuckles are all busted up, scratched up and stuff, man. But, I was making mobile homes and, the army recruiter had come by and he said, "Well, let me put you in the army." I was like, "Okay, cool, whatever. I go in the army."
Wow.
So like me and four of my friends, I was like, "Man, let's just go." I knew I wanted out of there. I knew we didn't have many opportunities. I knew I wanted to leave. And I told him, I said, a couple of friends of mine, I was like, "Man, let's just go. We can all go in the army together. We can use the buddy system. Let's get out of this dead end town. There's nothing really going on here." My parents wanted me to leave. They knew what was going to happen. So um, my buddies just were like, so the army guy was like, "Well, we tried to get you in the army. You're in too much trouble. We quit. Go back to building mobile homes." So I met this Marine, and this is where the story starts to get a little interesting. I met this Marine, and he was like, "Hey, why don't you join the Marine Corps?" I'm like, "Man, I'm already in trouble. Leave me alone." So he kept coming up to my job, and I'm like 19-year-old kid. I got on a pair of jeans, a Carl Kanai cap turned backwards, my hoodie. I'm covered up. I got my safety goggles on. I'm covered up in sheetrock and dust. I'm on a sawmill cutting panels for cutting carpets. I'm always covered in dust. And so the Marine, he showed up one day. He's like, "Man, can you just join the Marine Corps, man? It'll be really good for you." I was like, "Look, if you can get me in the Marine Corps, I told you I'm in trouble. Leave me alone. Go away." He's like, "If I can get you in the Marine Corps, will you come?" I'm like, "Fine. Okay." So November the 13th, man, 1993, he came to my job and I think it was one of my teachers and my foreman, they came back to get me. I was cutting sheetrock. Man. I had my headphones on, cutting sheetrock, pants all down, cap turned back, with the safety goggles on. And they're like, "You got to get to the courthouse right now." And so I'm like, "What happened?" My boss was like, "You're fired. Go." My boss fired me on the spot. He didn't give me an option. He's like, "You're going. Go." And the Marine was like, "Come on, man. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go." I don't really know what's going on. I get to the courthouse and they get me in front of the judge real quick. The judge is like, "You're in trouble. You already know that, right? You're on probation too." I'm like, "Yeah, I know that. I've been doing everything y'all told me to do." And they basically said, "We're going to give you a chance to leave here, they knew, man, that I had promise because even though I was a knucklehead, I still had the highest SAT scores in the county.
Wow.
And so they knew I had promise. They saw more of me than I saw myself at that time. So the judge took the whole thing and he rolled it into a fine of like $3,000. I had like dope money on me, maybe $1,000. They took that. So my recruiter, I think a preacher, a teacher, and somebody else put the money together for me to get out of there.
Wow.
They all put the money together for me to leave.
And so much just
So that was November the 13th, 1993. 3 days later, I was standing on the footprints at Paris Island.
excuse the background. Fellas, I'm on a live call right now. No. I'm so sorry. You
Oh man, let's let it play, man.
please bring your brother downstairs.
Yeah.
Go downstairs with your brother, okay? Hold on 1 second, good brother.
Are you good?
Go downstairs with your brother, okay? You have to at least quiet down, okay? Thank you, sir. Sorry about that, man.
Oh man, you're parenting, brother.
This is live right here. This is the live version right here.
Yeah, man.
Wow. So let me ask you, brother Calvin, what are some of the lessons, some of the lessons that you learned in the military that you still carry with you today?
Man, I think one of the bigger things that the Marine Corps taught me was it was tough. It was definitely tough. I was reading an article one day about the toughest jobs in the world. One of the toughest jobs in the world, man, was a staff non-commissioned officer in the Marine Corps. It was no lie listed as one of the toughest jobs in the world,
Wow.
and it was tough. I would say the first part of it started out really nice because at an early age, um, as soon as I got into the Marine Corps, I was on the move. I was traveling. I was I was in Japan. I was in Australia. I was in Norway. Norway. At 19, 20 years old, man, I was in countries people can't even name. I was in Chuuk, Micronesia. There's just all kinds of places, man. So
Long way from Milton, Georgia, huh?
yeah, yeah, a long way from Millen, Georgia. So I got my exposure really broad and early. So I said so get back to the question. Some of the lessons I learned was I was pretty much a liar, man, when I went into the military. Um, I was kind of the kid that didn't want to take responsibility for anything. There was always a reason why something happened. I always had a scapegoat. I always had a reason things. I never wanted to take responsibility. And so one lesson the Marine Corps taught me, man, was I had gotten into some trouble while I was in the Marine Corps, and I had a lieutenant colonel pull me to the side. And in the Marine Corps, I did well. I mean, I shot through the ranks. I was good at my job, and either be it on the classified stuff or I was really good at what I did. So I
So
I got
I know a little bit more, and I want you to dive as deep as you can without with showing some respect. But
okay.
for me, I don't have that background. There's so many moving parts. If you can go just kind of your day to day.
So for me, even my Marine Corps career was varied because I started out, in one field working in aviation, and ended up from there to some of our more special missions. I taught Marines to shoot, so I spent a long time doing that and being a marksman myself. I worked with jets, and I ended up teaching. So it was just a varied career. So and I think that's what I really loved about my military experience. I never really spent more than 4 years, 4 or 5 years, ever doing any one particular thing. So be it me in the operating force, on the pointy end of the spear, out being deployed, and going on missions like that, then then I have the other extreme, which is my last 4 years, I ended up really tackling some serious issues the military had or the Marine Corps had, centered around race diversity and inclusion. Because the Marine Corps was like, "Hey, we have some serious problems, and we know that." And so I got chosen, to go to Northwestern, on Marine Corps dime for a year, the best psychology, sociology school in the country, to come back and teach them, diversity and inclusion. So I went from being deployed and in the desert, doing stuff, to coming back and having a forum with 200 or 300 students at a time. So it was just a varied career.
So I have a really fast. I have Miss Angel Wright. Her question is, how did it help you take responsibility? She'd like to hear more or the rest of that story. I'm sorry for interrupting. So how did
Oh, hi, Angel. So I think what it did for me, what it did do for me was, the end of that story was the lieutenant colonel. He pulled me to the side, and I was in some pretty deep trouble. But I was a snake, man. I could wiggle my way. I was pretty street smart, and I was trying to wiggle my way out of it. But the colonel knew what had happened. But I had a bunch of people fooled that were on my side and wanted me to get out of it. And he said, "You're probably going to get out of this." And he said, "But I can tell you this: you're good at what you do. You made it through the ranks, so everybody believes in you." But he told me, he said, "You're one effed up individual," and he used he used the full word there, but it kind of sunk in, and it really sunk in to the point where it embarrassed me, to the point where I was like, you know what? I don't want to have one of my superiors feel that way about me. I don't want people to see me that way. And it's not who I desire to be. So one of the things the Marine Corps really made me do was, if you did it, own it. Lock your feet on the carpet and hold yourself accountable. So, if you did it, own it. And so hold yourself to a higher standard. So that's one of the lessons. Marine Corps also taught me about quitting. Some of the missions I've been on, some of the training I've had is probably some of the most intense training a person can go through. And it taught me to not set limits, to push through obstacles, to push through adversity, to push through just things that will make the normal mind want to break. And so I don't give myself a lot of room to fail at something. Now I'm leaning enough on myself, or informed enough to know what my limitations are, but I don't give myself a lot of room for excuses. I don't give myself a lot of room for failure. And I think the Marine Corps really taught me that was be resilient, push through. One of my colonels, he had a saying: drop your head down and push through it. Drop your head and push through it. And so, lessons like that, and it really taught me to appreciate life, man, because there were times we would go out and we didn't bring everybody back. Be it guys got lost to combat, guys got lost to training accidents, guys got lost to suicide. Different things, man. I could name off, uh, um, you know, Brett Ohm. I can name off Jerome Carter, J.B. Blackman, just different names that have cycled through my head. All these people are gone. So another thing it really did for me was not only put me in contact with my own mortality, but give me a thirst, a zeal, and an appreciation for life. It's all fleeting, and you never know what scenario you're going to be in tomorrow. So I try to go pretty hard, man, because we don't know what's going to be tomorrow. So um, I try to live each day in victory, in fullness, in appreciation. And I think the other thing that the Marine Corps taught me was, as I go on through life, is that I trained my whole life to fight and to kill people. but I found that my greatest strength was on my knees in prayer. And, because you just, I just learned to appreciate, to love life, and to grab life and to embrace it. All of its experiences, all of its fullness, man, to live a life that I can say at the end was well worth living, man. So I'm always pushing, so just trying to go farther, do more, and just uh, keep my foot on the gas, man. We used to have an old saying in Marine Corps, man, you'll sleep when you're dead. Put your foot on the gas. So, so a lot of lessons there, man.
I have first of all one of my good friends, Corey Odom. He is, I believe, Corey was a Marine, if I'm not mistaken. I know he served our country. So he's saying, I would say a salute, go Army. So you got another brother that's paying attention to what you're saying. Also, Angel wrote, it sounds like you also found a respect, reverence for authority as you began to become an authority figure.
Yes, exactly.
So,
She nailed it. Yeah, exactly.
so, and Corey was in the Army. Thank you, brother Corey. So my
Cool.
question is, transitioning out of becoming a civilian again. If you can walk me through that to where you are right now, and I really want to dive into this land that you just recently purchased. If you can kind of walk me through what it was to be a civilian afterwards, mindset wise, walking around with, you don't have to kill people anymore, as well as what were you doing to kind of occupy your time before finding this 100 acres of land?
So the piece of getting out of the military, man, I could say it was tough. Um, I didn't go as far as a lot of Marines do and drank the Kool-Aid entirely, but I was a proud Marine. Like I said, I excelled in the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps wanted me to stay. I got a call from General Willie Williams, who was my I know I missed a brotherhood. Yeah, I do. So I got a call from Willie Williams, who was appointed by Barack Obama to be the chief of staff for the Marine Corps. But he was also a frat brother of mine and a Masonic brother of mine. So I talked to him on a regular basis. He was a mentor of mine. He pinned on my last stripe. And so he called me when he found out I was getting out of the Marine Corps and asked me, he's like, there's no way they're not going to promote you again. Do you really want to get out? And I was like, well, sir, I've got my son at home. He's not doing as well as he needs to be. And that's the price you pay for being a good Marine. You're gonna pay somewhere. So I paid in neglect to my family in some senses. I went through a divorce while I was in the Marine Corps. I had a son who sort of went wayward for a while, and I really needed to get him reeled back in. So one of the things that drove me to get out was I needed to go home and stop being a Marine so much and be more of a dad. So my last tour, I knew that if I transferred again, I was going, to the desert. So I was like, you know what? I'm going home. This is it. And so getting out, I didn't take a period to cool off. I retired on August the 7th. I had another job August 9th.
What'd you
I
do?
literally, so I came here on a joint venture capital group to try to make a connection for recruiting for um, different employers. We had a technology platform where we were using an app to really recruit millennials, Gen Y, Gen Zs into corporations from the military. My job was to make liaison and connections from the military to these corporations and to funnel people over to these corporations from the military and into different schools. And so that went well for about 6 or 7 months. And in no time, I was in Atlanta with my son without a job. And I just received my last check from the military. Um, I went through a period, man, of probably about a good year of solid depression. Once you grow this back, you're back to average Joe then. I was respected in the uniform. I couldn't go anywhere and pay for a beer. I couldn't go anywhere and and pay for a meal. People love you. Thank you for your service. Thank you for serving our country. Thank you for going and putting your life on the line. So it was all of the fringe benefits, and I got back home and I was nobody.
Wow. May,
And
may I
on
ask,
top,
Calvin, what for you, may I ask, what did depression look like to you, right? Because, some people take on the bottle, other people do drugs. What did depression do to you, or what did that feel like, or what was your symptoms, if you will?
dumb relationships that I shouldn't have been in. I knew I was halfway decent looking guy, I thought at least. So getting into dumb relationships that wasn't going nowhere, just to sort of have somebody around. Really feeling a lot of, you're big strong Marine. Now you're codependent. It's weak. Um, so that didn't really drink. Started that again. I would say the most part was being extremely volatile. Snapping. Yeah, man. So it didn't take much for somebody to go. Then periods of just from the environment I came from, the sort of rage, man. So now that you're out and the op tempo, you used to we used to work in 12 hours a day for 6 months straight in operations. And now you come back and there's not that cocaine to shoot in your veins anymore.
Right,
So
right.
now your brain has to process all of that you've been through. And it came out as is about some crying, rage, um, just really being just on an emotional roller coaster, man. Just and then you feel like nobody understands where you've been. Moved to a town that really didn't have a military presence, so feeling isolated, ostracized, alone. And so it was rough, man. I spent a lot of days just sort of. Um, I finally had to go get some counseling
Salute to that,
to
brother.
help me process through that, man. So I knew something was wrong one day because I loved outdoors. I love to hunt. I love to fish, and I didn't want to do that no more. I just slept a lot, and it was. I knew then I was falling apart. I know too many of my buddies that sort of too many friends of mine that a couple people that checked themselves out. So um, it got pretty crazy there for about a year or two, man. And so even I met my now wife was my girlfriend then, man, and she was there to sort of help me through a bunch of that, man. So it was rough getting out, man. It is a hard transition, and you are lost trying to feel your way through the darkness.
Wow. So what I hear, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is a little bit of I guess first it was the awareness that, you identify that I am not acting normal. I am not the normal Calvin self. So it was first the awareness, then it sounded like, you made that assertive effort to get therapy, and then you met your now
hmm
wife. So all that collectively assisted in you kind of getting out of that space. I don't even like to call it that space that you were in.
It's a space. It's a space. It's a space. It's a
Wow.
bad place. It's a bad place, and a lot of guys don't come out of it, man. They drink themselves to death. They go have sex with people they shouldn't. They drink, and you can satisfy with compulsion. You start gambling. You start doing crazy things. You have a midlife crisis. You go get a bunch of tattoos. You spend money that you don't have, and it can and it does kill a lot of people.
Wow. 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 Um, I'd like to move on a little bit, brother. This is something I really want to get into. We've talked offline a few times about this purchase you just made, good brother. So when I first met you,
Yeah.
you were talking about I need to find a realtor. Looking to buy some land. I hear that often, and oh, that sounds good or whatever. But you've been very consistent, very
Yeah.
focused, and a few weeks ago or a month or so ago, you bought 100 acres of land. Um, Please walk us through that. First, the why. The first question I would ask is, why'd you do that? I know in previous conversations you said some of it's tied to your upbringing with your grandmother as far as gardening. So just kind of walk me through, because not every day brothers are buying 100 acres of land, man.
Well, it has a good story to it. So from the age of about 5 or 6, thanks, Mo. From about the age 5 or 6, I was raised by my grandmother and my aunt. So you know the traditional story of your parents working in the factory, so they don't really have time to keep kids. So I was raised by my grandmother, my aunt, and so I went to go live with them. And one of the things I found there was they lived just such a clean, really pure, just lifestyle, man. That was a part of my life that was just heaven on earth. I mean, I did not know that we were dirt poor, but it really didn't matter because we had like this little homestead, which was an old house. So this old house that my grandmother lived in, man, with my aunt, my uncle, that house has been in my family now for over 100 years, man. 7 generations of my family have grown up in that house. And all the houses around it that were newer and bigger, they've all fallen down or burned down. But that little house, it, it, it is a symbol of pride, man. That little house, that little homestead. And so people got saved there. People died there. If you died in our family, we brought the hearse and the funeral. Everybody lined up there. We all held hands in the yard and prayed to send you on your way. And it was just that little homestead, man. It was the center of our family. My grandmother was the African. She was the matriarch. You know, she still spoke words that was Swahili, man. And you know, our pride, our heritage, our roots were in that dirt. And I know my family's history, and I tell people the pride of a people is in their land. And so I remember one day, me and her, she was a strongly devout religious woman. She was the mother of our church. Founded our church. Our family went to that church. But the unique thing about my grandmother was she only had a third grade education. But people knew her, loved her, respected her. She never knew how to drive a car. She died at 94 years old. And I don't think she ever went more than 70 miles from the spot she was born in her whole life. But that woman, man, the amount of wisdom that she gained through life and the amount of wisdom, people would stand there. It would be, you know, these big shot white men of the community that owned everything. They would stand in admiration of my grandmother. She was only a little bit over 5 feet tall, man, but she could make a 7 foot tall man cry. Wow. And it wasn't that she ever raised her voice. It was just the amount of wisdom and the conviction that she had. And I sat, I know for at least 8 years straight, man, when I lived with her, I said the Lord's Prayer for 8 years in a row, every night. And that's the way she put us to bed, me and my brother. So there's some lessons, man, that were gained on that little farm, and they still ring. I can think about my grandmother now, and I break down, you know, just the impact that she had on me. And so one of the things, I was with her one day, and we were picking sweet potatoes, and she always grew sweet potatoes on the side of this hill, and we were picking them up, and she said, because she lived through the Great Depression, she lived through pretty much, you know, Jim Crow. She lived through 2 world wars. She knew what rough was. She had 14 kids of her own. And then she raised another, I think, 7 kids. So my grandmother raised like 21 kids. So, and she pretty much did it by herself. And so, we were picking these sweet potatoes, and she told me, she handed one to me. She said, if times get really hard, things go bad, you can live off sweet potatoes. And she said, I want you to make sure one day that you get you some land to grow some. And so, you know, fast forward many years, I'm in the Marine Corps, man. It's 2001, and I'm getting ready to go on another deployment. And so grandma's sick. She's the one that put all the faith in me, all the love that I have for God in me. I have a very strong spiritual conviction. as a minister now and as an elder. So she put all that in me, man. And it's all the good you see in me that's coming out now. It was rooted by her. And I'm getting ready to go on a deployment, and grandma's sick, and we know she's getting ready to die. I think that was closer to Christmas. And my family, they knew the love that I had for my grandmother, so they called me in to pray for my grandmother. So all my life, she's been praying for me. Now my whole family is around her bedside at death, and they asked me to come to read the Bible and to pray for her.
Full circle.
And so,
wow. Take your time, good brother. Take your time. We got time, brother.
So she's laying there, and I began to read from I think it was from Isaiah. And I know my bags are packed close to the door, and I got to go on deployment, man. And I asked God, do one or two things. Either let her live long enough for me, keep her alive until I get back, or take her before I go. She died Christmas Eve. And I left to go. I left on deployment like 5 days later. But so I love to hunt. I love to fish, and so buying this land, it was not easy. But I really. So the other part of it was this year I grew the biggest and best sweet potatoes I've ever seen in my life. They were humongous, and it's ironic that
I must add really fast. So when the pandemic first hit, and there was scarcity inside of Publix and Kroger's and all those places, I remember you specifically, brother. You were on the phone. We were talking. You were like, "Man, I got to get people some food." So I don't want to just kind of window over what you did in the month of March, April, May, that time where you were delivering potatoes and things that you made with your hand. You were bringing those to people in need, brother. And I think that's amazing. Now hearing the background story about your grandmother, she's living through you right now, good brother.
Man, it goes to show, man. So one of the things I thought about when this whole pandemic thing hit, well, I was like, you know what? Grandma always said if things go crazy, grow some sweet potatoes. So I had always tried to grow them before, and they would never really do anything. Man, I'll get these little egg-sized sweet potatoes or little tiny things. And so I tore out the front of my yard as a flower bed attached to my front door. It's like a 4-foot by 6-foot square. It was hard as a rock. So I go to chiseling, chopping, raking, hoeing, tilling. It takes me 2 days to even get the ground even remotely soft enough. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to try this anyway. So I grow the sweet potato slips. You got to grow the plant part first. So you got to chop a sweet potato up and get it in water, and it grows the little shoots up. Then you go and transplant the shoots out into the yard. And they began to grow. I was like, all right, let's see what happens. I don't really know how to grow sweet potatoes. Because, man, I went back to sort of check them like a few months later, and I pulled one out. It was about the size of my fist. And I was like, wow, this is actually working.
We got something.
And so it's ironic, man, because I saved that one. I took it inside and put it on the dresser. And I was like, I didn't even know what I was doing. And I just took it inside and put it on the dresser. I'm like, there's something, I'm just going to keep that one. And in the middle of this pandemic, man, that little 4-foot by 6-foot square, I probably grew 70 pounds of sweet potatoes, man, about that big. I mean, they were humongous. And so, yeah, I have been giving away a lot of fruits, a lot of vegetables that I all grew. And so once I got this land, the land really came about. I've always wanted it. I've always wanted my own land. I love to hunt. I love to fish.
Brother Calvin, where's it located?
Upson County, maybe 30, 40 minutes north of Macon. So maybe about an hour, 15 hour, 30 to get down there. But I love to fish. I love to hunt. So I wanted this land, and I had an opportunity to buy it through a grant. Well, the guy that was supposed to help me with the grant, he ended up robbing me. And it wasn't, six, $700. It wasn't $1,000. It wasn't $10,000. It wasn't $20,000. It was on up there. And this dude took a chunk of my life savings, man, and just took off running with it.
When
But
you say rob, I mean, I know he took the money and left, but how did he rob you? Like, I mean, I don't think
I transferred the money to an account, and he was supposed to be helping do some stuff with it, and he put it in his own account and disappeared. Yeah, man. So, but the thing about it was, I was already excited in the spirit, man. Something was already lit. And the Marine in me wanted to come out. I'm like, I'm gonna find this cat, man, and I'm pulling up, dog. He's gonna see what happens when you mess with me, dog. Because I'm like, bro, I don't want to get into Marine stuff, bro, but I'm capable of anything. I'm like, I'm gonna find this cat. So the thing about it was, though, I just got ordained as an elder like 2 months earlier. So I'm like, I can't be pulling up. I can't. I can't be cracking skulls and preaching at the same time, man. So I'm like, how do I do this? So I called my bishop, man. He's like, no, you're gonna have to do. You're gonna have to. He's like, I know who you are and I know what you want to do, but you can't let that old man raise up. We're gonna have to handle this another way. So,
glad you did.
yeah, and then so it came about that I for some reason I just kept looking though. I kept looking, and had a friend send me a listing of some land, man, and it was the perfect deal. And my wife helped me. I pulled money from places that that I had, and God was like, "I promised you the land, not that God had robbed you. Now that coronavirus is here, now that you've been robbed, now that you're sad, now that you're depressed, and you're beaten." God was like, now let me have the wheel and let me drive.
Wow. Brother, really fast, Brother Calvin, may I ask, just to get a little bit more in detail, so, depending on who you are, when you hear, someone's bought 100 acres of land, I know for me, I had no idea of the value, how much it cost. I don't know if you feel comfortable enough releasing or sharing that information, but I think the thing I'm trying to do is really show people that once we get out of our own way mentally, anything's possible.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of put in some perspective on what something like that would cost. What are some options? Now that you have it, what are you going to do with this land? How are you going to make that money back? How is this going to benefit your family and create generational wealth once you're gone? If you don't mind sharing whatever you want to share with inside those parameters, brother, I'm gonna just sit back and listen. But I really want this to be, an educational piece for me, as well as anyone else that's listening. Anything you feel comfortable with, man. No pressure at all, good brother.
All right. So the first thing I did, so I'm a realtor already. So I've been in real estate, investment properties, and things like that for over 14 years. So I have investment properties. So it was actually more so one of my comfort areas in real estate transactions. I knew I wouldn't be totally lost. So I know land as well because I hunt, I fish. I'm from the country, and so I knew something about land. You can get hurt really bad with this, though. All right, I'll put that out there. A couple of things you have to be leery of is, first of all, you have to ask yourself, what do you want to do with the land? What is your goal? What do you want to do with the land? So for me, it wasn't so much as an investment as it was a recreation place. Now, if it had,
a playground.
Playground, yeah, I wanted a playground. I wanted a place to go hunt. I wanted a place to go fish. I wanted a place to take my wife to picnics, to take my grandsons, to take your boys when they come back, ride four-wheelers. Just a place where I could put my hands in the dirt. And the real big goal was for me was not so much, the land. It was the fact that I owned the land. That was the goal, to own it, to touch my own tree.
Hmm.
and say, that is my tree.
Hmm.
This is my water. And I can put my hands in it. I can touch this plant. I can do what I want to do here because I own it. There was something within me that was driving me to own it. I have been invited to places. People let me hunt. I got to ask permission. Some people, really nice friends of mine, that offered me, the open up their land, but it wasn't mine. It wasn't mine. I hadn't fulfilled the promise to grandma to have my own. I wanted my own. And so it wasn't so much everything that the land had. It was the fact that before I died, I said, God, give me my own land and let me own it. And so now back into the process, buying land is different than commercial real estate. You really need to know, a big thing with land, which I ran into, was the encumbrances. A lot of land is legally tied up. There are right of ways that could be on the land. My land has a highway connected to it, which the Department of Transportation has an easement there. So some land that I thought I was getting, I didn't get because the timber company who owned the land before had sold the Department of Transportation an easement there. Now the Department of Transportation probably will never come through there and mess with that in my lifetime. So I can enjoy it, but I don't own that part.
Right. Right.
So you have to figure out what part you're actually going to own. You need to find the title. You need to find the deed. You need to find out what restrictions are on that land. What the tax situation is on that land. Is it in a government or federally run program that either increase the taxes, eliminate the taxes, but most programs that eliminate taxes also carry big restrictions. So you got to get educated on the tax piece. You may buy the land, but you may not own the timber rights. You may not own the farm rights. You may not own the water rights. You may not own the mineral rights. So you've got to figure all of that out before you go into this, because if you don't, it's going to eat you later. Is the land on a floodplain? There's 2 or 3 acres that I have that are on a floodplain. When the river rises, it's got to go somewhere. It's coming in your backyard. So all of those things have got to be. Then the real big thing is, how do I know what this land is worth?
Right.
How do I know, am I overpaying or underpaying? So luckily for me, I had a good understanding, and this process took about a year. Really taught myself how to evaluate timber. I was taking free classes online, looking at YouTube's University of Georgia, University of Alabama, how to price and how to sell timber. And so I gave myself pretty much a year-long education. I don't think it has to be that hard for a person, but I usually, I go in, I dive head first. So
Wow.
I knew that I should have been paying somewhere around about 2,700 an acre for that land. And so now the other part is, you ask, how does it hold value? Well, I tell you like this: you can put money in stocks and bonds, right? But you can't play with a stock or a bond. I can play with this land. Your kids can't enjoy a stock or bond. I can with this land. So really, all land is, you have to think about it. Most millionaires, they own property and they own land. So what is it that is so intrinsic about land that makes them want to own it? Well, one of the things that makes land really valuable is its in situ value, or in situ meaning the one of a kindness of land. And so no, every piece of land is unique. And so what land really is, it is a solid asset. It ain't going nowhere. It's going to be, no matter what you do to land, you can't destroy it. And it's always worth something. And land, based on some of the timber on it, the mineral rights, water rights, farming rights, it can appreciate faster than your stock or your bond. Okay, I'm going to let you in on a scenario. The land I bought, okay, I paid $250,000 for it. In about 4 years, I could starting cutting down trees, pull maybe $2,000 per acre off that land. Off 100 acres,
Dollars per acre.
yeah. There's some parts of my land that are worth $2,000. They have timber on it, $2,000 an acre.
And the good thing about timber, I have to assume that it's going to grow again. So
it's got to grow back. It's got to grow back. So think about it. In my lifetime, I can flip those trees 2 or 3 times. And so the land, basically, when you do the math right, the land was free, and it also gave me a 200% return. And then it's not over. I pass it on to my son, let him flip it 4 or 5 times. Dude, land is a money maker.
We got to talk about
money trade. It's a money trade. Now, the other thing about it is this. Everything I do to the land, it's a business expense. It's a business expense. If I drive down there, pay me. If I got somebody down there right now cutting grass, write it off. I got a guy coming this weekend with one of the forestry mulchers going to thin out around the trees, write it off. My taxes, since it's in a federal tax program, my taxes on 100 acres of land, man, are $500 a year. $500 a year.
I say it's the information that we don't know, that oftentimes we don't share, that it's failing us as a people, honestly. This information that you hold, I mean, we spoke, before we had this public conversation, we spoke online, and just the things that we don't know and how much that's costing us because we don't have the information and the knowledge. And I just think that I strongly believe, we talk about all the time, we have everything that we need inside the village, man. And it has to get to a point where we remove our ego, right? Remove the armor, and let's be honest about where we are in life and what does it take to get to the next level, and who do I have inside of my circle that can assist me in getting to that next level. And in order for us to, I learned to speak from I. In order for me to do that, I have to remove the armor. I have to remove the ego and be fully transparent about the things that I don't know, in order to have a brother like yourself provide me the insight and the know-how for me to say, this is worth it. This is the sacrifice I need to make for my family, so that it's going to feed my family generation after generation after generation. And I think having conversations like these and more private conversation amongst larger groups of individuals, men, we can get there, man, collectively, man. We have everything we need inside the community, brother.
Well, I would say this about, you're 100% correct. I started out this conversation by sort of saying the pride of a people is in its land. And the more you got to think about what this land is also going to do, it's going to pull people together. And so we have to get away from this myth as Black people that there's not enough for everybody. And so it's really about reconnecting and really using, like you said, this platform to not only to educate but to embrace each other. We've got to get that sense of unity and culture back, because I feel like, growing up with my grandmother, that's one of the things that kept me strong, was I knew my story. The word of God says we're saved by the word of our testimony. I know my story. I embrace it. And so that's one of the things the land does. It gives you that sense of pride, that sense of worth that is essential to a prosperous people. And so a real part of this is me as a Black man reconnecting to the land that we came here to farm, that we were forced to work on. I want my piece of it. This is my cut of my part of the American dream. I want my slice. And so in that, I don't want to be someone who says, well, I got mine, you go get yours. Right. There's enough to go around. There's enough for everybody. And so anytime I can, like this platform here, I was overjoyed to come. I'm going to give you all the secrets, and there ain't no secrets me. And if you need my help to get the land, and then come on. I just need somebody ready, willing, and able. And so I appreciate platforms like this where brothers are willing to really help each other, because uh, that sense of unity, that sense of togetherness, that sense of pride, we need that. We need more of it. We need to reconnect. We need to be okay with crying. We need to be okay with embracing. We need to be okay with saying, brother, I love you. And so all of those things, man, it goes deep into the healing. This is the healing thing for me. It's a healing thing for Black people to get back to that sense of wholeness that we talk, to get closer to it. And so it really does a lot of things in a lot of aspects, and just revitalizing, refreshing, it's a victory, man. It's a victory, man. Every time I think of any reason I can come up with, I go down there. Oh man, something might be over there, but let me go down there and check it out.
I tell
Any
you, brother,
reason I can come up with.
it's
Yeah.
not just a victory for you, Calvin. It's a victory for everyone, because you've truly inspired me, brother. You truly are really making me look at some of the things that I'm not proficient in, and saying, man, where do I need help? Who can I call? Who can I help? I don't own 100 acres of land, but that sounds
Brother,
enticing. I got kids I can pass it off to.
let me put the icing on the cake, man, because I know when I first started getting on the calls, you were on a lot of them, man. You were on a bunch of them. And one of the brothers, man, I hate to say it, but I'm gonna admit it. I'm ashamed of the devil and tell the truth. But a lot of the brothers would be going in deep, man. Hey, I had this life experience, and this happened to me as a kid, and and I'm sympathetic to that, man, because God knows I had a tough childhood. But I would be like, what is Jamel over there doing with the boxes? And we would snap over to you real quick, man. You're like, oh, I'm putting together the boxes in the warehouse to send out to the clients because I got orders to ship. I'm like, wait a minute. He owns the tea shop that we're at, and the brother is shipping orders. And man, that was inspiring to me, because that's my weakness. I'm steadfast. I'm a hard worker. I'm not very adventurous. I stick to the rivers and lakes that I'm used to. I'm not gonna dive out there. That's my wife. You give her $200 and a pamphlet, she gonna go try to open a bakery or something. We might not eat for a month, man, behind her. So I keep her stable. She's got all the adventure blood, man. I don't. I'm that lower left brain, rules, regulations, routines, schedules. I don't have that higher eight brain, imagination, creation, and technicolor. I'm black or white, off or on, 0 or 1. Nah, I'm real left or right. You got that technicolor brain, man. I don't have that type of energy. I wish I had it more, because if I could channel that with the amount of steadfastness, amount of drive I had, the sky could be the limit. I need to develop more of that rapport in me that you have, man, that creative energy. I don't have it. I don't have that type of gut. I get anxiety, man. Oh, go out here on my own? You mean I ain't gonna have a steady check coming in every month from the government? I gotta risk it all? Oh heck no, dog. I'm over here sweating palms.
Well,
I can't do any of that, man.
in this village that we're
No.
man, we all put our best foot forward, man. In this love thing, man, to make each other better, brother. I have one. We're approaching right at an hour, man. I have one last question for you, good brother. What does self love look like to you, brother Calvin? What does self love look like to you, man?
I'm gonna take a page from a brother I shared with today, man. What does self love look like? Self love means um, having broad shoulders, carrying a lot of weight, um, acknowledging who you are and the responsibilities I have. I'm a father. I'm a businessman. I'm a husband. I'm a son. I'm an elder. I'm a minister. I have a lot of different titles, so I embrace all of that. But self love is to carry all of that weight, to do all of those things. But self love is to understand that God's grace is sufficient, and to give myself a good measure of mercy, to give myself room to fail, to give myself room not to be okay, to have served 20 years in the Marine Corps, born and fight to train to kill, and understand that some days I just need to get somewhere, break down, and just cry.
Indeed.
So, and to heal, man, to really, um, I, I'm learning that this year. That, like I said, I trained my whole life to fight and to kill, man. But I learned this. I am my absolute strongest when I'm on my knees praying for myself and people that I love.
It's
And
the
so
grace.
that's self love to me, man. That's
It's the
self love to me.
it's the grace. Giving yourself that grace, brother. I feel you.
Bunch of grace, man. A bunch of grace, a bunch of mercy, man. Embracing that vulnerability. The scriptures tell us when you are at your weakest, I am strongest. So be weak if you need to be, man, but embrace it. Because I used to think my whole life, man, I had to go around barking, screaming, and yelling to prove a point, man. I don't have to prove anything to anybody. If I gotta prove it, you win. You win. So
I tell you, brother,
I
when
had to
getting
learn,
to
man.
that level, when you get to that space, man, when you know you just don't have to prove anything to anybody,
Self,
brother, that's a space of
defeat self. Push that button and let all that air out of that ego, man. Push it, push it. That's what I got to do. Push that button and just let it all go out, and go somewhere and go, and then go and tend to my sweet potatoes. That's self love.
good brother
That's
Calvin, man.
self love.
Again, man, I always when I always talk to you, man, you inspire me, good brother. It's been only a year, since less than a year, man, but I've learned a lot just kind of watching you move, good brother, man. I love you, good brother. We need to start saying
man.
publicly and privately. But I just
I
appreciate your
love
time.
you, brother.
Appreciate you coming here to Removing Armor and just sharing your story, good brother, man. That's what it's all about, man.
Man, I appreciate you for providing this platform, man. I love your family. I see how happy they are around you. I see how people gravitate toward you, brother. So we love and we embrace you as well, brother.
Thank you, good brother. We'll definitely be in touch off camera, man.
All right, brother. We talk to you soon, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. The last 10 folks we have live. I appreciate you all staying here the full hour for those that were. Next Thursday at 8 o'clock, I will be talking to one of my childhood friends, LeVar Click, based out of Springfield, Massachusetts, the place I call my hometown. We're going to be talking about basketball, the importance of adoption, and just being vulnerable and what it is to be African-American men living in today's world. Thank you all so much. Please continue to mask up. Love every single one of you all that's on this line, and I look forward to chopping up with you all next Thursday. Before I do leave, I want to let anyone know we do have a Chop It Up session. The Chop It Up session is going to be held this upcoming Sunday at 3 p.m. I'm going to make sure I put the link inside the comment for brothers that are in a space where they just want to talk. They may have some things they got to get off their chest. They may not have a space or individual to do so. I definitely want to invite you out to our next Chop It Up this Sunday at 3 o'clock. I say it's a space where we remove all the egos, all the judgments, and we just really allow brothers to just breathe and talk it out. Hope to see you all on Sunday. I'm going to post up that link, and I hope to see you all next Thursday at 8 o'clock when, again, I talk to my good brother, LeVar Click out of Springfield, Massachusetts. God bless you all, and I look forward to speaking with you all later on. Peace.